One of the most exciting things about the Multiverse Saga and Avengers Secret Wars is the possibility and probability that the OG Avengers are going to return. In fact, we've heard many different insiders state that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Chris Evans' Captain America are indeed going to be returning in Avengers Secret Wars. Now, just to clarify, these are indeed going to be variants of the characters based off of everything that we heard. Iron Man isn't going to be resurrected, and Captain America isn't going to kind of have time flow through him to make him young again. But these will just be variants from other universes played by Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, so they can come back for Avengers Secret Wars. Yes, it's fan service, but it also makes a ton of sense to do. We have seen a lot of different characters and their variants at this point, and since so many OGs are coming back for Deadpool 3 and Avengers Secret Wars and maybe some other movies or shows in between, it would make sense to have the Iron Man and the Captain America return. We haven't heard much about Black Widow, but hopefully Scarlett Johansson returns and reprises her role as that character as well. But one thing a lot of people haven't been talking about is the villains. This isn't just a prime opportunity to have some of the heroes return, but villains are going to be returning as well. So you thought Ultron was gone, but it looks like we could see him in Secret Wars. Same thing with Thanos. We thought Avengers Endgame could have been the complete end of Thanos ever appearing in the MCU again, but we did see him briefly, and although he was dead, in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. However, in Secret Wars, we could see him alive once again. In fact, we could be seeing some Loki variants pop up in Avengers Secret Wars as well, and this isn't limited just to Avengers Secret Wars, but they could also appear in Deadpool 3. And what's really interesting about the premise of how these villains could return to the MCU is that we could see multiple variants of them, and they could be incredibly bad still, or they might actually be good and have to fight with the heroes to defeat Kang the Conqueror. But one thing seems to be for sure at this point in time, and that is that Marvel Studios is planning on introducing Battleworld to the MCU. And based off of what we know, it sounds like this is going to start in Deadpool 3 and ultimately end in Avengers Secret Wars. So we'll tell you everything you need to know about what's going to happen in this video, and if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news. And if you subscribe and leave a comment, you're automatically entered in our giveaway for a chance to win a PS5, an Xbox Series X, some Marvel Legends items, or some DC items. The winner picks one item, and we pick one winner at the end of every single month. So right away, let me know who you would love to see return as far as villains are concerned. A lot of people would love to see Thanos, but a lot of people thought that Ultron really was done dirty, just getting one movie, being defeated, and then that was the end of it. Now, we did get Infinity Ultron in What If, and maybe there will be some type of connection to the animated What If series, especially after season 2. But as far as live action goes, fans were really disappointed that Ultron was done after Age of Ultron. But it doesn't look like he is, and that could actually be in a couple of different ways. There have been rumors going around for a while now that Ultron could possibly make a return for Armor Wars. Armor Wars is going to be about what if Tony Stark tech gets in the wrong hands. Well, Ultron technically is Tony Stark tech, and as of right now, we're not really sure if any remnants of Ultron remain anywhere, but I'm assuming they do somewhere in all of the data that Tony Stark had. And we know that the Department of Damage Control did take a lot of Tony Stark tech. What happened to that, and how did it get into the wrong hands? So we know that he could come back in Armor Wars, but as far as Battleworld goes, we are most likely seeing a variant of Ultron from another universe. Now, keep in mind, in Multiverse of Madness, we did see the Ultron bots, which means Ultron exists somewhere in that universe, or he did, and perhaps the Illuminati defeated him. Or perhaps since they have successfully created the Ultron bots, perhaps Tony Stark and Bruce Banner or whoever, maybe with the help of Reed Richards, got it right in that universe and created a good Ultron. And that most likely did happen in some universe in the multiverse, which is the really cool thing about Deadpool 3, Secret Wars, and just the Multiverse Saga in general, is that variants of characters can show up and they could be the opposite of what we know about them. Ultron could show up on Battleworld and he could be good. Same thing with Thanos. I mean, we've seen What If. We have seen how a few different changes can drastically alter history. And this is what is being set up in the MCU right now, which is really exciting. Now, it's supposed to start with Deadpool 3. If you haven't heard, Deadpool 3 is essentially going to be the beginning of Battleworld. And the TVA is supposed to play a pretty significant role in Deadpool 3. Not only are Wolverine and Deadpool going to be in the TVA, both as prisoners, but of course they break out and they steal TVA TVA technology and start to travel the multiverse. Well, keep in mind, Deadpool 3 does exist in the whole picture of the MCU, the overall story of the multiverse. So while they're doing their own thing, the multiverse is beginning to kind of collapse. Incursions are happening everywhere, and Kang and all of the Kang variants are trying to take over the multiverse at the same time. Based off of what we've heard from insiders, universes throughout the multiverse are going to begin dying, and Kang the Conqueror and all of his variants are going to be behind the multiverse almost being destroyed. So the TVA is going to go to a bunch of different universes, and they are going to pick a bunch of different heroes and possibly some villains and bring them all to one place. Essentially, this is going to be a battle world. Now, the goal for this is so they could all come together to ultimately defeat Kang the Conqueror and all of his variants. This is how we get our multiversal Avengers team. But more recently, since we've had all of these changes with Jonathan Majors being found guilty and Marvel Studios firing him and the future of Kang the Conqueror kind of unknown right now, we've heard a lot of talks from insiders stating that there is going to be sort of a bigger villain than Kang the Conqueror. Now, most insiders believe that this is still going to be a Beyonder variant of Kang and that we are still going to have a battle world. Now, it's not going to be just like the comics because, of course, the MCU never does that. They take inspiration, but they never do it exactly like the comics do it. But in the comics, the Beyonder essentially separates the heroes and the villains and says, go at it. Fight each other, I'll grant the winner whatever they want. This could be what we're looking at in the MCU. Regardless of how it happens, we are going to get heroes and villains in one place. And we all know what happens when you put heroes and villains in one place. Well, they tend to fight. The TVA might go around gathering all of the potential superheroes or super people or mutants or whatever they think are going to be useful to defeat Kang in battle, but they might have forgotten how much these characters can clash with one another. Even good characters can clash with other good characters. Tony Stark is actually kind of the perfect example. A genius with a very specific personality running into himself. You know that they would all want to be the better variant of Tony Stark and could definitely clash, especially if one is comparing technology with the other. What if one is further along in time and has much better Iron Man tech than another would have? Basically, this could lead to a lot of conflict, not only between heroes and villains, but between heroes and villains and villains. And according to Insider Can We Get Some Toast, there's going to be sort of a fake portal scene, a parody portal scene in Deadpool 3 that is a parody of the portal scene from Avengers Endgame. This is going to be sort of a multiversal portal scene where we will see, like I mentioned, heroes and villains. And in this scene in particular, we could see the return of Ultron, of Thanos. We could see Loki variants. And as I mentioned before, we could see good versions of Kang the Conqueror. Technically, from what we saw in Loki Season 2, Victor Timely was indeed a good Kang variant. But he wasn't really Kang the Conqueror. Hopefully we do see a full Kang the Conqueror with all of the Kang tech who is good. That would definitely help out the Avengers. But if you thought some of these OG villains were gone and we never see them again, well, enter the Multiverse Saga. Some rumors going around suggest they are going to return, but also it just makes sense that they would return, and it would be a really big missed opportunity for Marvel Studios to not at least have some of these villains return as cameos. And Multiverse of Madness kind of brought back Thanos and Ultron with the Ultron bots and, well, dead Thanos. And also, not to mention, we could, of course, get villains that have not entered the MCU yet. It's been said that we are going to see mutants that we haven't seen yet, whether that be in the Fox universe or the MCU now. And we're supposed to get a lot of different Wolverine variants as well, even if these are just slight cameos. So it's exciting enough that Marvel Studios is planning on bringing back some of the original X-Men characters. But when you think about how big Secret Wars and Deadpool 3 and everything else in between could be, with the multiverse truly breaking down and universes colliding, things start to get really exciting when you think about all of the possibilities that could happen. And of course, like we've been mentioning, some of the possibilities are these villains that we have known and loved could possibly return and even maybe get a better redemption arc like Ultron. Because you have to imagine that some of these villains might want to actually join Kang and help take over the multiverse only to try and overthrow him later on down the road. That definitely sounds like something Victor Von Doom would do, which is exactly what happens in the comics with him and the Beyonder. So with everything and anything being possible right now in the MCU, let me know what you would love to see in the comments down below, and which villain would you be the most excited about returning in Deadpool 3 or Secret Wars? Let us know in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the MCU. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter if you'd like, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.